Hey ladies and gents, today I'm going to talk to you about Glenwood River Left and the boards I surfed there during the 2020 season. First, let's talk about the wave itself. River Left at Glenwood Springs is an amazing wave, but it has a few features to it that can affect your board choice. First of all, at its best level, it has to be caught from upstream. So for me, what that means is I need a board with a little bit more paddling power to help me catch that wave. Second of all, it has a super nice shoulder. And I realized this when I started supping it years ago, was that on a sup, I could surf really far out on the shoulder and come back. And that kind of translates to shortboarding as well. If you have a board with enough speed, you can get way out on the shoulder and effectively make the wave wider than it would be on a smaller board. The last interesting aspect of this wave is it's very dynamic. And one feature of this wave that appears right in the middle is this bubble. And it's about 5 feet wide, and it just forms every maybe 20 to 30 seconds. There's no advance warning, but what happens is if you're standing on your board over that bubble, and that bubble forms, it just pushes you off the wave. There's very little that you can do to save yourself from it. It's hard to pump through it or jump on the front of your board. Basically, if you get hit by that bubble, your surf is done. So with that, this season, I didn't get to surf Glenwood a lot. I only got 4 or 5 days on the wave. And I mostly focused on surfing some of my newer boards so I could review them at the end of the season. So here's the boards I surfed. And again, I'm going to talk about these in order of my least favorite to my most favorite. So my least favorite board that I surfed there was the 5-foot strong water runt epoxy. This board caught the wave fine. I was able to stand up no problem with it. It has enough foam, enough volume to allow that ease of paddling as well as popping up, even if you're in kind of the white water in the middle of the wave. But once I was up, I found this board to be too slow. And I kept wanting to get flushed off of it. And if I stood further forward on the board, the tail would get super loose on me. And same thing when I tried to pump it, it didn't really want to pump that well. So I would go in between standing front on the board, trying to generate speed, stepping back, making a turn, jumping forward again, pumping awkwardly as the tail slid around, trying to make a turn. It just didn't really work that well for me. I was a little bit surprised that it didn't work well, but yeah, it was just too slow and really couldn't generate speed on this wave. The next board I'm going to talk about is the Hydras Blisket. And I didn't really expect this board to do that well at Glenwood. It's really meant for surfing smaller waves, holes, something with white water where you need all of this volume to stay on the wave. But I found it surfed fairly well. I was able to catch it very easily with all of this volume. I found it actually pumped fairly well compared to the runt. It has this nice deep concave throughout the nose of the board that really helps with that. But then once I started surfing it, I found that it really had too much foam for this wave. And the other thing I've noticed before with this board, and definitely noticed it at Glenwood, was that when I tried to push it really hard and make really, deep carves and really engage the rails, the tail of this board would just want to slide out. And, to be expected, didn't really expect much out of this board for Glenwood, but it does work there. And I was, surprised that it worked as well as it did. Next up, I have the 5-foot strong water runt foamy. And this board surprised me for a couple of reasons. First of all, I enjoyed surfing this board much more than the epoxy version. This is the same size as the epoxy board. And I also set it up with the same fin setup. So I had 2 larger side bites and a smaller trailer. But it surfed much better. It pumped well, it was able to generate speed, it was able to stay on the wave, it was able to make great turns. So I was extremely surprised by that. Why is this board better than the epoxy version? And I can't really tell you why, but there must be something a little bit different with the shape that makes this board better suited for Glenwood Springs. I was also surprised that I enjoyed surfing a foamy at Glenwood. Typically, when I'm surfing a foamy, it's someplace where it's shallower, I have a chance of hitting rocks, or it's a place that I'm just learning the wave. But in this case, I really enjoyed surfing this foamy, and I thought it was really decent. Maybe not the best, but very, very good. And the last board I'm going to talk about today, and my favorite for Glenwood Springs River Left that I surfed during the 2020 season, is the LibTech Freak Flag Beanbag by Lost. This is the 510 version. I found this board was able to catch this wave very easily. It has plenty of foam and enough length. And then once I was surfing this wave, I found that, like when I surf a sup, I was able to generate enough speed with this bigger board to surf way out on the shoulder, make a big cutback turn, come back to the steeper section of the wave, and continue to surf. And in the steeper section of the wave, I found that I was able to basically ignore the bubble that forms on the wave. I was never pushed off unexpectedly. This board has enough volume and enough speed where I would just have to lean forward a little bit anytime that bubble would form. I had a ton of fun on this board. I think it's probably my favorite right now for Glenwood Springs River Left. The other board, which I didn't get to surf this season, that I really like for River Left is another LibTech board, the pickup stick, the 6.6. Surfs similar to this, but has more of a longboard feel. This board, you kind of set your stance and just surf from there. The pickup stick, you might shuffle around a little bit more like you would on the longboard. But this was my favorite for this season. It is a fairly big board, so don't expect it to make super snappy turns like you could on, say, a 5.3 puddle jumper. But it is able to catch the wave and stay on the wave much easier than shorter boards. Last season, 2019, I didn't have a bigger board to surf at Glenwood Springs in the first half of the season, and I found myself struggling on my shorter LibTechs and some other boards that were, under 5.6, and I wasn't even able to catch it more than half the time. This board, I'm able to catch it no problem. I feel like it's able to surf the wave without me struggling or pumping much, and I really, really enjoy it. So definitely worth checking out. This is the 510 version. I would say it's probably a little bit too much board, honestly. You could probably go with like the 5.8 version and have just as much fun on that as this board. So that's it for this video. Check back soon. I'll talk about, I think, Montana next. So look forward to that.